everyone, and welcome to Behind the Mask. This is where we sit down with the people who are shaping the future of surgical and clinical care. So it's not just about the technology, but it's about the teams, the systems, and the partnerships that make everything work behind the scenes. So today's conversation is about something that luckily most people will never see, but it directly determines whether mothers and babies stay safe when pregnancy gets complicated. We're talking about maternal enhanced and critical care, and the remarkable story of how one region built the infrastructure to support the 1 in 10 women who become critically unwell during or after pregnancy. I'm joined by two incredible guests. So first we have Dr. Deborah Horner, consultant in anaesthesia and critical care at Bradford Teaching Hospitals. And Deborah is also the chair of the Yorkshire and Humber Maternal Enhanced and Critical Care Steering Group. Debbie spent the past decade leading the development of MEAC, working to transform how we recognise and care for seriously ill pregnant women. And Viv, who works alongside Debbie as the lead midwife for the MEAC project. So Viv has been in midwifery for 5 decades. A long time, Viv. She started a training in the mid-70s. She's witnessed the whole evolution of maternal care from where it was then to the data-driven systems that we're building today. So I'm very excited for this conversation today. So Debbie and Viv, thank you so much for joining me. So I'm going to come straight to you, Debbie. So can you just give our listeners just a little bit of an explanation on what MEAC actually means and why it emerged about 10 years ago?
Enhanced care starts at the point that you are concerned that a woman may be at risk of deterioration in and around the time of pregnancy, and need a little bit of extra care from the staff who are looking after that woman on the delivery suite. And then critical care is the point at which enhanced care transitions into that woman becoming unwell enough to need care, usually within a critical care unit, so an intensive care unit or a high dependency unit.
Viv, just drawing on your experience, obviously being in midwifery for a long time, how do you think that it's changed over those years, and how is it recognised more today?
I think we worked more in isolation, and so the obstetricians got very used to actually caring for the women for all aspects of them, their medical care, and it wasn't as shared, it wasn't as multidisciplinary as it is today.
So in terms of the work that MEAC's done, we talk a lot about 1 in 10 women needing that critical care. So Debbie, from your point of view, can you help us understand what that looks like in practice? What conditions are we talking about really?
So when we started MEAC, we got together all of the units in Yorkshire and Humber, so that was 17 maternity units, and we got together the MDT that Viv was talking about, so anaesthetists, obstetricians, midwives from each of those trusts, plus people from managerial roles in the region, to talk about what we needed to do to support each other to better look after sick women. One of the things that became clear to us early on was that this data around those women, particularly the women who became sick and were cared for in maternity, so the enhanced maternal care women, there was no one capturing that data nationally anywhere. And so we didn't actually know how many women were becoming unwell and needing that level of extra care in our delivery suites. So we've got about 7,000 cases in the database now. And when you look at the average number of cases that each unit is having, roughly speaking, it's about 10% of women, all women who are booked in any unit will become unwell enough to need enhanced maternal care. And the 3 main reasons why those women need enhanced maternal care are blood loss following birth, infection or sepsis following or during or before birth, and then preeclampsia. So that's the condition which involves having high blood pressure in and around the time of around the time of pregnancy.
Viv noted in her blog that maternal mortality rates are now at a level that we've not seen since like 2003 to 2005. When you're looking at the work and the impact that you're having with MEAC, how does that impact kind of your thinking and why it's so important right now as well?
Okay, so I think that those of us that were involved in MEAC right at the beginning recognise that maternity care was getting more challenging. And we'd already started to see those numbers of deaths, unfortunately, nationally, tragically going up. We recognised that we needed to do something to try and firstly recognise when a woman was becoming unwell. So to give the staff who were looking after those women the ability to spot when things were starting to go wrong, and then to escalate that appropriately to members of the multidisciplinary team, who would then be able to come and start to make plans around how to make things better for that woman and for that baby. And then the next step is actually, once you know you've got a sick woman, what next? So who needs to look after that woman in the maternity unit? Does she need to go to critical care? So in doing that and starting to collect data, that gave us a kind of baseline level of who becomes unwell, what that looks like, and start to be able to identify things that we might be able to change to make things better in the future. We're starting in the new year a project looking at blood loss after giving birth, because we now know that that is the biggest reason for women needing enhanced maternal care in Yorkshire and Humber. And there's various projects that have been done in other areas of the country that have shown that if you do specific, or you look after those women in a specific way, you can reduce the amount of blood that they lose and the outcomes for the mum and also for baby. So all of that information has come from MIAC, and it's a really exciting time now to be starting to look at what can we do with those individual conditions to improve outcomes.
If I can just add to that, then the third aspect of the MIAC project is the data itself, and we have data collection within our maternity services, but it doesn't collect data on women that are requiring enhanced maternal care. So we have no idea of the incidence of this, or anything with that. And we have asked, and the midwives around the units have been fantastic across Yorkshire and Humber, and have collected this data for us. But coming back to, your focus that you were saying on the Embrace reports, what it allows them locally to do is they will have real-time data. So they can have a look at the national reports that are coming through, and then they can compare that nationally within their trust, and then look at areas of care that they might like to just focus in on.
What does it take to manage and maintain a database like this? I think you said, did you say 7,000 records?
Yeah.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, Debbie had the foresight to, when they were setting this up, to say, right, let's have somebody that's going to kind of, roll this out, that's got a research background. So being older, not necessarily wiser. I had the research background. I'm no good with technology at all. So what I was bringing to it was the fact that we weren't going to have research midwives, or nurses, the research team involved in the data collection, which is normally what happens, or the digital midwives in a hospital. We were going to have the staff that were on the floor. And we had to make it as slick as possible, as user-friendly as possible, and working with net solving and through to Athera has been an absolute joy for that, because I think one of the main things that you've given to us is that you've been interested in why we are collecting. You have come to conferences, you've heard the stories, the background, and then you've got more kind of input from the user kind of perspective with that. So it's really worked well. It's slick. It only asks the questions that we need it to ask. It's all anonymised data. We don't get to see any of the NHS numbers for the women. We have no identifiable information at all on any of the women, because this is an audit. The only thing that we do is actually assign them a case ID number, and that's how they are known to us with it. But we, data integrity, we check that with the very first version. We've asked all of the trusts that if they thought we were missing a trick, we weren't asking any specific questions which they would like to ask within for their trust. We've said, please tell us, and we've now onto our third data set now. We improve it. We have a look at the Embrace reports that come out, and we keep up to date, and we work with the educational institutions as well, and we have input from there as well as the multidisciplinary team.
Have you had a lot of feedback kind of nationally on how it's helping them as well?
That whole 10% figure that I keep mentioning, just that on its own just shows everyone nationally, from a policy perspective, different colleges, everyone who's got a bit of an interest in women who become unwell. It shows them that this is not a small issue. This is a lot of women.
So women that came into the delivery suite or came into maternity care, the people that actually ended up needing enhanced care, you wouldn't have thought would have needed it. So how has that shaped kind of how people are seeing coming in now? Like, what changes have been put in place based on that?
For everyone who has an interaction with a woman in pregnancy, the importance of them recognising early signs of deterioration and of those women becoming unwell. And that aligns with some other national work that's been going on around maternal early warning scores. But it's on its own, having an early warning score solves part of the issue. But what you need alongside that is an understanding from the staff perspective who are using those scores of why that deterioration might have happened. MEAC has kind of put a piece in place that helps staff to understand why women become unwell.
In very simple terms, what has it taken to get to where you are today?
The regional maternity team at the start of this were hugely supportive of setting up the project. And also, I think the buy-in more from the local maternity and neonatal systems, they can all see the benefit and have been very supportive of the work that we've been doing. And then the individual trust. And I think because this is very much a kind of shop floor project, it all started actually, or my journey started as a new consultant coming in, and one of the, at the time, quite junior midwives coming up to me and very directly saying, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with looking after sick women. Can you please do something to help us to do this better? Because the staff on the shop floor can really see how important this is. That's why we've had so many cases entered into the database. So every single one of those 7,000 cases has been manually data entered by a member of staff in those individual trusts. So that is hours and hours of people's time. Hugely grateful to everyone who's been involved in this.
And I think just to come on to the end of what Debbie's saying, that's been part of the culture. It's been part of listening to everybody buying in this whole multidisciplinary aspect of it. Everybody wants to improve care.
So you talked before about the improvement programme around postpartum hemorrhage. So what does that look like, and what are you trying to achieve with that?
We've got really rich baseline data. That means once we implement the care bundle for looking after those women who've had a bleed after having their baby, we'll really be able to see whether that is helping to improve outcomes, because we've got that before and after data.
We're also looking at what support is a woman given after she's actually experienced an episode where she has been unwell. And we're starting to work now with the women themselves, the users, to find out, what was available, what support was available. Did you access this support? if you didn't, why didn't you? And looking at a whole range of support for women.
So Viv, I noticed you spoke really openly about burnout. And as you went through your career, questioning kind of whether the care that you were providing was safe and effective. And I thought it was a really brave thing to speak about. What was that moment like when you were sort of reflecting on some of those days and how things are changing now?
I think I don't feel it was brave to admit it, because I think it's something that we speak more openly about these days. But back in the late 90s, I decided to undertake further education, and so I was studying with my masters, and we had got into the cycle of reflection by this stage. Have a think about what you're doing, think about why you're doing it. We were becoming more research based as a profession, and I had to do a personal reflection. And I think one thing that had worried me, I was working full time as a community midwife, that was that I noticed in myself, I felt I was detaching sometimes. I didn't feel as I was feeling it's a very emotional journey that we take as health professionals with the pregnant lady and the family, and I think even more when you know the whole family is on community. And I felt that I was beginning to detach from some of the ladies' problems, not causing harm to them at all, but was I giving my best? And then I began to think, well, am I as effective? And am I doing it right? And and am I giving the care that they so richly deserve? And so writing about this was horrible. Reading about it, actually looking at the signs of burnout, and discovering that I had classic signs of burnout was so difficult. And I remember this, it was ridiculous. I got this assignment given back to me, 85% at master's level. Everybody would be skipping all the way to the bank with that one, and would I think about publishing it? And I thought, I can't publish this because people would know how I felt. So I got some help. I think your help's all about seeking support. It was talking, it was kind of setting some boundaries, and prioritizing myself, in a midst of being a mum, a wife, a midwife, studying and everything, and actually recognizing those symptoms that are there. Then in the midst of this, I was doing my master's, and so I thought, right, actually, can I do something else? Can I take some of the pressure off? So I decided to go into research, and I decided kind of to reinvent the wheel a bit at that stage. It took me about 3 years to step out of midwifery, out of community midwifery, because I'd done that for 20 years. I loved it, but actually I looked at myself and thought, right, well, what else can I do? So I had mentoring, and they said, well, actually, we think you might be quite good at project managing, so then, I went into research. I was offered a job. I started up the research team, and worked regionally and nationally, and internationally as well. It's been a fantastic career, and it's interesting how it's brought me back to Debbie and brought me back to working, with MIAC. And I would say to anybody, you are going to have to work through it yourselves. You are going to feel, horrible and unhappy, but it doesn't mean you have to leave. It means that you can actually work through it, get support, continue, but maybe down a different road.
Look at you now.
One day I will retire.
What would you say to other maternity leaders or hospital execs that are kind of thinking about investing in this kind of infrastructure?
Come join us.
Yeah, I think I'd say the same as Viv. I think that getting the basics right, which, to be honest, a lot of MIAC is about the basics, getting the basics right in terms of equipping our staff with the competencies that means that they are able to recognise and look after sick women, and also really encouraging that multidisciplinary working, because at the end of the day, A midwife has loads of skills that are really important for looking after a woman who is having a baby and the baby when that baby is born. A critical care nurse has loads of skills in looking after really sick women in an intensive care environment. Anaesthetists, obstetricians, neonatologists, they all have specific skill sets. Now, there's overlap between all of them, but they're not all exactly the same. So there will never be a situation where one person can do everything. And it is absolutely a team sport, which means that if you work well together as a multidisciplinary team, you will get the best outcome. And then following on from that is really listening to women and their families.
And when it comes to data, come join us. Collect the data. You know, when you're working in trust, there's lots of different specialities that are competing for, you know, funding and everything for different aspects with it. Collect the data, then you would have evidence behind you to you know, say, right, actually we need to do this training, you know, this is the level of care we're providing, we want to enhance that care, what can we do? And it will help you so much with the rest of the organization as well.
Who do they get in touch with?
Us.
And just to sort of end, I wondered if both of you could share maybe a moment that you look back on and you think, yeah, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I feel incredibly proud right now.
I think.
Well, I would say that you know, my whole career has led towards giving me the expertise to be able to do what I'm doing now. And I was going to retire, and I in fact had retired for a few weeks, and then I met Debbie, who was inspirational. I hadn't heard of enhanced maternal care. You know, I came along, I spoke to her, my interview was, why is it required? And there was all the knowledge in the background, you know, about the embrace reports for me and everything, but Debbie and, you know, Yorkshire and Humber put everything together and you know, put a pretty good load of evidence there to say, come join us. And the most humbling part has been that, you know, we started the data collection during COVID. What a time to do that. And everybody has been on board. Every single trust has been on board. You know, it's been a wonderful collaboration to be part of and to be part of a name of, you know, and that's including, you know, the, you know, case capture, it's Athera, net solving, everybody has worked together. And that's what I love. It's the team looking to work together to improve care for women.
So I still work clinically in labour ward and on intensive care, and looked after lots of women who've become unwell. And I think the things that stand out, each of those individual cases where I think that things have gone better than they could have done because of the work that we've done, is super rewarding. And then I think the other kind of times where it kind of makes me stop and think about it is when either in my own unit or in someone else's unit, I hear somebody describing the care that they've given as that's just how we do it around here, and knowing that that is the work that we have been doing for the last 10 years and that it has become embedded as normal practice on that occasion. And that's hugely rewarding, because actually it's not about us as individuals and telling people what to do. It's about what happens and how services get transformed, and it becomes business as usual to look after women in this way and get the best outcomes.
I think it's incredible work, and I really hope that more trusts get on board for you, and for women like me as well. That is a wrap for this episode of Behind the Mask. So I just want to say thank you to you both for joining today. It's been a really inspirational conversation, and I'm really glad that you were able to share the remarkable story of MIAC and the 10 years of building the infrastructure that is hidden, that saves a lot of mothers and babies across Yorkshire and Humber. So if this conversation resonated you, make sure you subscribe and follow along. We've got plenty more episodes coming up with the people who are helping to shape clinical excellence, often in ways that you don't see every day like this. If you'd like to feature on the show, just let us know and we'll be in touch. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on Behind the Mask. Thank you.
Thank you.